Oh, welcome. I meant to put on a nice shirt. Welcome to the Tomb of Illumination, all about the flat earth system, how the ancients knew all about it. Bit of time on my hands, so I thought I'd just go over a comment and answer his questions. It's regarding Norse mythology. I'll read his comment. This is from Based Gardening. Hello, Based Gardening. It's great to see you getting into Norse mythology. I'm Norse pagan, and I can tell you that if you're Christian, and I think you are, we believe many similar things. You have so much to get into. What is the serpent that surrounds the entire realm? Why does Loki the trickster kick off Ragnarok? What does it mean when Thor almost drinks the entire ocean and lifts the serpent over his head? See, I haven't read all this yet, but because I know the flat earth model, I know all the answers, you see. So I'll just run over them. What is the serpent that surrounds the entire realm? Well, if you've been following my videos, you know it represents the magnetic field. Over the field thou shalt go, along the ground, over the field, blah blah blah. Check out all my videos. It's what the serpent represents. The serpent there, the magnetic field. Serpent in the vortex. There's the cartouche and all that. It's a simple one. Up the back on many statues all around the world, and in certain cultures, the stone statues. The snake coming out the backbone, because it's enlightenment. It's the Christ raising the Christ. It's all about that. Our entire realm, our existence is about waking up, raising the Kundalini, raising the snake from your sacrum. And it's earthly as well, because the manly and earthly, it runs parallel. Why does Loki the trickster kick off Ragnarok? Loki the trickster. Well, once again, my videos show you about the two systems. Well, you've got the inner magnetic field of the northern hemisphere. Just go back and check out my other videos if you don't understand. Curving magnetic field lines, and out here in the south you have the curving magnetic field line, and there's a point where they align. It's called man's hour, and the divine hour is to do with the Milky Way coming around and lining up as well. Check out my earlier videos. So let's go to the trickster. The tricks, because the southern hemisphere warps away, and it's people are finding it hard. See, I tell them that the northern stars are the same out here, but the average guy can't figure that out. You have to know when to look and what to look for. But there's a man's alignment. It's the whole Christian crossing, when he's parted the seas and it came back closed again. Don't do this tropical gap in here between the two north and south poles, or positive and negative, whichever you want to look at it. Okay, it's about the warping of the south, but it comes around, it can line up, it lines up north to south meridian at man's hour. So the trick is in the warping southern magnetic field. How does Loki the trickster kick off Ragnarok? Ragnarok is man's awakening. It's his Passover, the whole event. What does it mean when Thor almost drinks the entire ocean and lifts the serpent over his head? Well, the whole atmosphere is full of water. I've told that in all my videos too. Atmospheric moisture. This is what the firmament's made of, different gaseous layers. The expansion in the vacuum, the hydrogen molecule turns to lighter and lighter gases. Well, you've got to imagine there are layers of different states of water. So the water's come off the ocean through, condensation, whatever you call it, and it's in the atmosphere. We are actually living in water. We are solar luminescence. Check out my other videos. Thor almost drinks the entire ocean and lifts the serpent over his head. And I've just told you about the serpent. We're enclosed in a magnetic field. The magnetic field is like the shell of our enclosed system. I think when I put that in a previous video, or it was a Facebook post. So yeah, it was in a Facebook post, I think. Because we come from the dielectric. It's when the two forces of creation come together, bang, it creates equilibrium, perfection. That is the state of inertia. It's basically the dielectric. We've come from there. So our whole entire earth is from the dielectric. But because we're created from the creator, we now have our own dielectric in our system, which is the tropical gap. So the tropical gap is basically creation. If you can get your head around that, it comes from back in the centre of creation. So because we're in a whole dielectric system, we are surrounded by the magnetic field, just like we are here in the tropics. It's a dielectric, and that magnetic field moves around us. It's the avoidance zone. So we're inside that avoidance zone. Okay? And the number one of all, the part that can't be ignored, what is the significance of Balder, the most beloved and beautiful god who survives Ragnarok in a roundabout way? Whether he put the roundabout way, but the roundabout way is the Milky Way, because it turns. It moves around here like a straw. Comes out here like a straw, rolls around. Because inside vertically is the Milky Way, the sun's tucked into it. It just turns like that. It projects the energy out. That's your 24-hour day when it turns. But we see everything horizontally in our realm. It's vertical in creation, horizontal and over our realm. That's why we get the arcs of horizon. I mean, rainbows and all that stuff. The firmament. So this guy who survives is obviously like the other a Jesus story. He is the divine one. He was awoken. He's gone through his rebirth. And he survives because, rebirth is all about your old way dying off. So this is why it's turned into a gory story, all the slaughter and stuff. When no, you don't experience any of that. It just means you're killing off your dumb state. Waking up. It's creation. You're waking up the other part of your brain. He survives that. Obviously the perfect one would be a perfect person, a beautiful man like Jesus. But I don't think we're all like that if it does happen, because there's 12 zodiac signs. Everyone has their period in that within your zodiac sign. Jesus was in Pisces. But there's a bit more to that, because he came at the end times. He's the grand rebirth that comes at the end times every 21,600 years or 25,000 years, the Hindus say. But he comes at the end of a time, which is the end of the Pisces cycle. We're now under Aquarius now. One man will come and he will know it all about creation. So because does not kill him. See, Loki doesn't kill him. The alignment doesn't kill him. But all the stories involve being killed, because it's just your old mentality, your old way of life dying off, and he survives. But some people don't gain it because they're not awake enough. They're too thick, they're too dumb, they're too brain dead. They don't accept it when it comes. They don't know what the hell's going on. They don't listen. There's speech involved. At the end of it, you realise a certain time later, who the hell was talking to you? You figure it out. Bugger me. It was in my voice. Fenna eats the moon during Ragnarok. Well, Fenna, it must be the Milky Way, because the Milky Way swings over the moon. It's when the moon and the sun are in the Milky Way together. This was a big secret of mine. I've just let it out. Okay. And it does not represent the moon phases. No, it's more. You're right there, mate. I struggle to put this stuff together all the time. I'll give you one bit of advice. Remember that maybe not everything is a metaphor. The end of Gemanga Gap into a fading ice age where life flourishes may be nothing more than the end of the last ice age. No, there's no frickin' ice age on the entire earth. They're referring to the recycling system of earth going back into the Arctic Centre, dropping down. Check out my recycling system videos, because you have to imagine those hydrogen molecules that have been recycled, hydrogen molecules, and all turning back to water that's dripping down to the Buford Gaia. You've got to imagine our spirits in there as well, because when we die, all energy is recycled, right? It's in with that Milky Way, being recycled through with the water. We are come out of the water. That's when they talk about the ice, Gunga gap, into a fading ice age. It all comes out of this gap. The Milky Way is attached to over here, or there over to there. We all pass through this Milky Way. That's the choke point. And so you get expansion as you rise, get sucked through the Milky choke point to be reformed, basically. It's a recycling system. This new paragraph. I recommend you read all the stories like when Thor, Loki and human visited the realm of the giants and got tricked repeatedly. That's the land of the giants. The southern hemisphere is the land of the giants, because everything expands as it moves out from the centre of the toroidal field. This is why they have the giants out here, what they call these miniature people, elves or trolls or whatever. That's what it's all about. Well, someone's telling grandma to suck eggs, this guy. Sorry, mate. What have we got? Repeating. They're fascinating and great stories. For example, Loki thinks he's entering an eating contest against a giant that he loses. But it turns out that his opponent wasn't a giant. It was fire. Loki goes on to start Ragnarok. You see, fire is basically us in the water, our electromagnetic in the water, like light, solar luminescence. So he thought he was hitting against a giant, but at the end of the day, it's all relative. He's not a giant. We move out there, we expand in the field. So we don't know we're giants. Nobody knows. Nobody can compare, because everything goes out there, expands. Everything back here shrinks. You can't jump from A to B all of a sudden and see the difference. No, you can't. It's what they call general relativity. It's all relative to you as the observer in the zone. They've screwed it all up. Well, they've tried to hide it all with their special relativity, general relativity. General relativity is a curved linear coordinate system. So they're just used as a coordinate system. That's all it should be, the globe. Just a coordinate system. Where are we? Fenrir eats the moon during Ragnarok. Yes, swallowed it into the Milky Way. Swallowed it up. They're fascinating, great stories. For example, Loki thinks he's entering an eating contest against a giant that he loses. But it turns out that his opponent wasn't a giant. It was fire. Because fire, the expansion, is called the toroidal field. The fire, that's what the fire is, the toroidal field. Loki goes on to start Ragnarok. Yeah, sets up an alignment again, but he can't defeat fire. The questions never end. But he can't defeat fire. Loki goes on to start Ragnarok, but he can't defeat fire. Not quite sure what he means about that one. Ragnarok tried to defeat fire. Not quite sure. I'd have to go and read it and read what's leading up to it and pulling away from it. But yeah, it's understand the two fields, the two curving fields, and the southern field that's out here. This alignment. This is the street, It's the parting of the seas. This is the divine gap. This gap, the holy gap. And alignment. All celestial. Everything to do with us down here is above. It's freaking mind blowing when you get to understand it all. It's when you can understand what the hell I'm talking about. It's a tricky bit. Okay, thanks guys. It's Norse mythology.